Hello and welcome to Into the Inbox, presented by your friendly email and CRM expert, Nick Crawford. Each week, we review a marketing email, looking at some key areas including subject line, layout, and content, picking out the good, the okay, and the not so brilliant to help us improve our own emails in the future. So join Nick as we dive into the inbox.
Hello and welcome to Into the Inbox. Today we're going to be looking at an email from Boots. So let's have a first look at the subject line and the pre-header and see how well it motivates a potential open. So we start off with a fairly short and snappy subject line. Is your free health MOT due? Posed as a question, always a good way of creating a bit of intrigue and interest. Use of the word free is likely to motivate a further look, and a reference to health is likely to be of interest to most people. Pre-header then goes on to book your free health MOT appointment, includes a free NHS blood pressure check, and then it truncates. In the mobile view, we get as far as MOT appointment. So from a subject line and pre-header point of view, there is enough there showing in a mobile view to create a full message. We are duplicating the word free, health and MOT in the subject line and the pre-header, which seems a bit of a wasted opportunity, whereas the pre-header here could have gone on to a little bit more detail about what you might be involved, what is a free health MOT, or maybe something else, another service, another offering from Boots, so that if the free health MOT didn't quite create an interest, then there's another reason to open the email and actually then create that open and that engagement. Also of interest here, we've got an asterisk after the MOT in the pre-header, but not in the subject line. I would question here whether that asterisk is needed. Clearly there are terms and conditions. It does flag that, but the email copy in itself will help us understand that. We don't necessarily need that in the subject line to create a hesitation or a reason that maybe this isn't what it seems, and therefore I'm not going to take it any further. Taking a look at the layout from a desktop point of view, we've got our main logo and then our secondary navigation. Really useful element to have in terms of being able to signpost other areas of interest should the main content not be engaging enough to the reader. Here we have got a duplication between the Boots logo and a Boots.com menu item. They're both doing the same job. Actually, most people are aware that clicking on the logo will take them to the home page. So use that other menu item for something else so that we've got maximizing the benefit of that real estate. We've got a really big hero image, clearly setting the scene, setting a context, title, a little bit of intro copy, and a call to action button nice and high in the email. And then a middle section which gives us a little bit more. Great to see some icons. It really kind of shows and helps the reader understand at a scan and in an instant what the content might be about. From a layout point of view, I would say that these icons seem large relative to the copy size, and there is a lot of white space around them. There is absolutely a place to allow your content to breathe by giving it some space, but I think we've perhaps gone a little bit too far here. That could have been a bit more condensed, just to shorten the email length a little bit. And then we finish off with a final image with some animated copy over the top of it and a final call to action button there before we get to our footer, which is very large, very full, and this mix of kind of white background for the main content and then a full width copy footer image really does jar from that point of view. So some work just to polish that probably would just lift this email a little bit. So taking a look at the layout in a mobile view, we can immediately see that we've got this orphan word here for the Boots Health Hub, where the screen is narrowed and that's wrapped over a second line. Always looks slightly wrong. Ideally, if we could have maybe made this Health Hub, that would have shortened the number of characters and meant that we were still staying on one line. Always look at your builds in a mobile view as the primary approach to take, because that's the way that most people read their emails at the moment. Hero image, copy, call to action button all look good. In a mobile view, actually the icons and the copy look a little better. They're not quite, there's not so much white space around them. The copy is perhaps a little bit small relative to the size of the heading and then the secondary content here. So I'm not sure why we've got a slightly smaller copy size that's being used for these sections. And you'll notice that it's all center aligned. So from an accessibility point of view, that's not as easy to read. Ideally left aligned so that you've got clear starts and finishes for your sentences is a best practice approach to take. And then we've got our very long footer because we're now running on that narrow screen. So again, if we can reduce some of that, do the T's and C's all need to be in the email, or can we simply link to those, reference them, and then create the click if that detail is in the landing page? There's three elements that I want to pick up on when we look at the content for this particular email. The first one is that the offer is only available if you're over 40. Now, there's nothing in the subject line or the pre-header that signposts that or makes me aware of it. So if this email has been segmented and only sent to people that are over 40, then in part that's fine, it's absolutely relevant, and actually then including that in the subject line would probably encourage them to open even more because it's even more relevant to them. I'm not aware that Boots has my date of birth, and therefore I'm going to suspect that this email has been sent to their subscriber database, and therefore actually opening that email and finding that it's not relevant to me is going to immediately disengage me. So again, putting the over 40 within the subject line or the pre-header would have helped just set an expectation rather than being disappointed when I find it. The second consideration then is that we've got this kind of video content here. As I said, it's not particularly signpost. It goes to the YouTube page. It doesn't go to the same place as these, although clearly there's no click action other than the image to take you through to the landing page here. Having its own call to action button would have been sensible. Having an icon over the image to highlight that it's a video would definitely have helped engage a click and a view of the video. And actually it's perfectly possible now to embed video within email. It's only a 3-minute video in itself. So actually having that perhaps in the header to immediately explain the whole offer, to allow somebody to absorb all of that content without having to click through anywhere else would have been beneficial. And then some consideration around this kind of final image. I'm not sure it's really adding very much more. It's not giving me any new information. The image itself feels quite staged and quite false, and therefore I think actually not needing that, just using what is a far more striking hero image, the intro copy, the 3 ways that I can kind of get a bit more information would have been beneficial in terms of making this email just a little bit more succinct and therefore more likely to create that final engagement. In dark mode, the first thing we can see is that the logo doesn't show very well at all. And as we scroll up, we can see that the first call to action button has changed colour to this slight kind of greeny tinge, which then doesn't match any of the other call to action buttons within the email. The icons are also lost. That kind of blue against the black background now just isn't working at all. And the icons in the footer for the social platforms are all lost as well as they've transposed colour. Having looked at subject line, layout and content, here's my 3 takeaways for today. Number 1, always make sure that your content is as relevant as possible to the majority of people that are going to be seeing your email. So in this case, where we've got something as specific as an over 40s offer, ideally through segmentation, so that it's a smaller but far more targeted send. If that's not possible, then ensure that you're also including content that's going to be relevant to everyone. And then you can use your subject line to promote the primary offer, but the pre-header to also highlight other information that's contained in that email so that everyone's got a reason to open and engage. Number 2, where you've got video content which is highly engaged with from a reader's point of view, highlight that nicely using icons or play buttons within the image so that everyone knows that actually if they click on that they're going to find video content, and using your call to action buttons and copy to really signpost that you've got video content that's available. And ideally, if you can embed that video within the email, that stops anyone having to actually click away and they can get all of that information from within the email itself. And thirdly, always check your emails in dark mode. With around 1 in 4 of your readers using it, you've got to make sure that it renders correctly. So for your logos and for your images, how do they actually work on a dark background? And it might mean that actually you need to put a background of some sort to protect them, or a white line around the images to actually ensure that they can be seen. But make sure you've checked it, make sure you've done those render tests, and that will save the emails looking poor in 25% of the views that you're getting. Thank you very much for joining me today. I've been Nick Crawford, and I look forward to seeing you next week as once again we'll go into the inbox.